Hi, I'm Molly, and I am so excited to welcome you to the first season of the Unapologetically Molly show in podcast. Let me start by saying this. I am no business guru. I am just a regular person who have learned to build six-figure businesses, and now I'm here to share what I've learned, along with the wisdom of some amazing speakers, so that you can thrive in your business too. A little bit about me. I am from Chicago, Illinois, and I am proud mom of 4 beautiful kids who drive me absolutely crazy, but they keep me inspired every single day. At my core, I am an entrepreneur, just like you, with the passion for serving others, making a difference, and living life unapologetically. This season is all about helping you unlock your potential. You'll hear from amazing speakers who have generously shared their valuable and vulnerable stories about building their own six-figure businesses. My hope is that by the end of this season, you'll step into 2025 with confidence, knowing that you can, you will, and that you've already taken the first steps towards transforming your financial future and mindset. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy the show as much as I've enjoyed putting it together for you. Welcome to the Unapologetically Molly show. Today we're filming in Windy City, Chicago. We're sitting here with 5 beautiful women who will share their stories on how they overcame limiting mindsets. Special thanks to our sponsor, Osimita Signature. Osimita Signature designs bridal gowns, prom dresses, and gala dresses. If you have any questions on the gowns that are here today, you can check in the link below. Welcome to the Unapologetically Molly show. Today, we have our women panel, and they're going to talk about how their mindsets have changed and how their businesses have transformed because of it. So, ladies, thank you for being here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited for you guys to talk about each and every vertical you work in. So I'm going to just ask you to present yourselves and the vertical you work in.
Absolutely. My name is Anna Rivera. I come from the insurance industry. I've actually been in the insurance industry now for 8 years. Next week will actually be my 8-year anniversary being in the industry. I had no prior background. I didn't go to school for that. It was just something that I feel that God called me to do, and I'm there today. And I'm so thankful and grateful because now I can educate my community. I can educate the middle class and show them what the wealthy know when it comes to creating generational wealth. So now I coach, I train, and I develop agents to become licensed agents so they can go out there and open their agency, and alongside I help clients as well.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I am a professional matchmaker and dating coach, and I specialize in ethically non-monogamous relationships. So anyone who's interested in open, poly, or swinger lifestyle relationship, that is my niche. And I also host non-monogamous speed dating events.
And had me to compromise certain fundamental values and principles. It was time for me to shift into my purpose. And so motivational speaking is something that I'm passionate about. It's a gift of mine. And so now I love inspiring and transforming the lives of individuals, corporate, where I talk about leadership, integrity, confidence, self-esteem. And that's my passion, that's my niche, that's my gift, and here I am.
Hello, my name is Olivia Cabrera, and I am a motivational speaker, a business strategist, an author, and a mother of 3. And I'm super grateful to be here. I love motivational speaking because for me, I love to speak from my soul. I learned a lot of that from Tony. I did a lot of Tony Robbins' work. I continue to do it. I feel that if we want to reach an audience, we must reach them from the heart. So I love just connecting with people. I also put together a lot of networking events. I connect attorneys, lawyers, and I also do a lot of public speaking. I'm on the Bash, and I just wrote a book with 10 other women, businesswomen, and we just collaborate stories, and I'm super grateful to have growth mindset.
Hi, my name is Jenna Bell. I have a background in engineering and working currently in clinical research. I also own a non-for-profit women's organization dedicated to helping and developing women into their best selves. I also wear a lot of hats. I'm an ordained pastor and also working in different verticals as far as healthcare businesses and also events-based businesses. And I'm so grateful to be joining you guys today.
Thank you so much. So, of course, we have several different verticals here. So I really want to get started on a little bit about how you guys found your passion and kind of how did you find your passion, right? And how it has changed since you've started. I can go first. Like I mentioned earlier, I felt like it found me. I was in a point in my life where I was just in the pits. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I graduated from college, couldn't find a job with my degree. So I ended up working in hospitality. So I've done everything from front desk to housekeeping. So I am not afraid of hard work, right? I think I've seen everything in hospitality, but it was just at some point in my life where I felt like this just can't be my end all be all. Like, I don't really want to go back to school because I don't have the money for it and I don't have the time for it. What else can I do? And I remember my spouse was like, hey, well, I just got laid off from teaching. Somebody just spoke to me about the insurance industry. Why don't you come check it out? I'm like, insurance? Like, because when you think about insurance, it's not always the most positive things, right? Especially within my community, nobody ever talked about those things. So I came in blinded and I was very introverted at the time. So I'm like, oh, I got to talk to people. Then I got to talk to people about something that I don't know. But then I'm like, you know what? Let me stop thinking that way and let me change my mindset and let me see what it can do for me and what it could do for others. So the more I started learning about the industry, the more I started falling in love with it. When I started sitting with clients, learning about their stories, they became my family. And it was just like, man, like every time I sat with a client, I'm like, this is like if I'm talking to my mother, if I'm talking to my father, my cousin, I want to give them the most information possible so they can get out of their current situation and they can plan and create generational wealth for their family. People don't really realize that life insurance is really important, but the thing is, it's something that we don't want to talk about because we do hear the negatives of it. I fell in love with not only helping clients, but I started learning more about myself. I started becoming more confident. I started becoming more competent in the industry. I started giving back to the community. And then it came to, okay, now you've created your own success. You've made 6 figures here. How many other people can you put in position? So that's when I started mentoring. I started coaching. My spouse and I, we started building a team where we've reached different people in different states, and we have a local office here in the Naperville area. And I just fell in love with leadership, entrepreneurship, of course, self-development and helping people. And I can't recognize, if you were to ask me 8 years ago, would this be something that I would see myself doing now? I'd be like, girl, no, right? Like, absolutely not. Like, my hands would get sweaty. I would be super nervous, but I'm like, man, I'm so grateful that I shifted my mindset and I changed that. And I was open to new opportunities because Lord knows where I would be if it wasn't for that. So it's made a very positive impact since then.
My background is I was a Navy veteran. I joined the military to get my education paid for. And that's what I did. I did my time. I lived in Japan, in San Diego, and in Japan is where I met my husband. And the journey of non-monogamy started with my husband and I early on. And it's a very liberating experience to have that open and honest conversation. And I wanted to continue rolling with it. And I love to empower women to also be liberated in that part of their life. And so that's kind of like how that initially started with me. And so I got out of the military. I got an MBA. I wanted to start my own business. And I didn't know what I wanted to be yet. And so the idea of matchmaking came to me when my husband and I were honeymooning in Iceland. And a screenshot of a matchmaker was going around these girl groups that I was in and looking for singles for a client. And I thought to myself, wait, that would be an amazing gig. Like, you bring more love into the world. You connect people. I'm a people connector, and it can be hybrid. It can be anywhere. Like, all these things were just lighting up. And I asked my husband, I was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, sounds amazing. You should do it. So from there, I did my research, and upon my research, I noticed that matchmakers were turning away people who were kinky. And I also noticed that there were no matchmakers doing non-monogamous matchmaking. So I thought to myself, well, I would love to be the first matchmaker with that niche. I talked to the other matchmakers. They're like, we need someone like you. We get clients all the time that want that dynamic. We don't know who to send them to. You should definitely move forward with this. So I was like, okay, I will. So then I got certified, and that's when I started my business, Birds of Feather Matchmaking, because birds of feathers flock together. And I became the first certified matchmaker specializing in ethically non-monogamous relationships. And it's just something that I'm super passionate about, and it's really a special case to have a career that is aligned with your passion. I love this lifestyle. I love being in these communities. I love being in this realm. Everyone is so authentically themselves, and I want to help people meet, and I want to help bring more love into the world who want this dynamic. And it's very taboo. It's not socially accepted right now, but it is slowly but surely becoming more normalized. So I am here to continuously normalize ethical non-monogamy.
Love that. Cindy.
Okay. How I arrived in my passion and how did I get here is through life, actually. My life experiences, my failures, my losses, some of the mentors in my life has brought me to where I'm at today. My faith, unapologetically, brought me here today. I've been in corporate HR for over 20 years. I have a master's degree in workforce education and development. I've had a 15-year marriage that recently ended this year, which could have been a 6-figure divorce. But unapologetically, it happened. And I'm here. And so when you have experienced losses and failures throughout life, relationally, financially, marital, you realize, and after speaking with people, and I've noticed that as I pour out and give of myself, it is something that I'm very passionate about. I don't get tired of inspiring and encouraging others through my own life challenges that I myself have overcome. And so because I've noticed that when I was going through, when my ex and I were homeless, I was on YouTube doing a video on how to be happy because one of my subscribers reached out and said, can you do a video on how you stay happy? You stay so positive. They didn't know that I was in an abandoned house, right? But it wasn't the money that was driving me here, but it was the impact that I was having on people that were either in my situation or worse or not worse, and being able to impact them on a deeper level, to encourage them and to find their own level of happiness and peace through my light, through my faith, and through me being transparent and honest about who I am, what I am, and where I've come from. Because I honestly feel that more people can relate to the latter than those who cannot. My story is not like everyone. I don't have, I don't come from wealth. So therefore, to get here, unapologetically, I embrace everything, my losses, my failures, and my successes. I am an author as well. I have 6 beautiful children, and it's who I am today. And it is why I'm now a transformative motivational speaker, because when I speak with intention. I speak with the heart and the mind to transform the lives of those who are listening. And so when I'm able to do that, that is success for me. So.
Well, I must have retaliated you. It's like, go girl. Man, Olivia, that's a lot to live up with. I don't think she, go ahead.
So my passion found me. I remember I thought I was happy. I had the perfect relationship, 3 children, paid off my house. I thought I'm going to retire by the age, when I'm 40, I'm going to retire. House paid off. Everything was set. I had a quote unquote great relationship, but inside I was dying. I felt depressed, dead. Even though I had the money, after work, I would just want to go to the store, shop, and try to fulfill myself with material things. So then my niece invited me to the Landmark Forum downtown. And I'm like, what is that? She's like, Dia, just come. We're going to go and you can sit. And I'm okay, I'll go support you. So we go downtown to the Landmark Forum. I'm sitting in the back. Then on stage comes this lady with beautiful, high heels, all made up. She starts speaking. And when she started speaking, there was something in my soul that just came alive. And then she invited everybody up to the microphone. because she wanted people to speak about their experience. And then when they spoke about the experience, I still get emotional. When they spoke about the experience, not one person leaving that microphone was a different person. They shed tears and they let go of a lot of stuff they were holding on to. And the beauty of that moment for me was, wow, one person can help transform thousands just by speaking their story and just by sharing who they truly authentically are, unapologetically. So after that day, I got home and I started speaking to my husband, sharing, oh, we should, can I go do this? We should do this. And he didn't accept it. But in my soul, I felt there was a calling. And then everything fell apart. Our relationship fell apart. And I just pursued that dream. 2016, I took myself to Dallas by myself. I heard Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. The big event is there. Scared. I didn't know what I was doing. But even in that seminar, more of me was coming out. And I've done a lot of personal development through the years. And I didn't create my business till 2020 when everything changed. But because I had changed and I had poured so much into myself, I felt that I was ready. So for me, my passion found me. And now I'm more unapologetically, and I want to serve others who feel stuck, depressed, unhappy. Even if you have all the material things, you live in a world where the facade, it looks perfect on the outside, but inside there's an emptiness. I'm here to let you know that there's true fulfillment in pursuing your passion and living life unapologetically and on your own terms and just being you, just sharing who you are anywhere you go.
I love that. Those are hard acts to follow. But I think for me, I resonate a lot with what you just said. There was a deep sense of dissatisfaction. And sometimes it's challenging to identify why you feel dissatisfied when in the outside, naturally speaking, everything seems to be going well. So for me, being accepted into an engineering school as a Black female, attending school, a bright, career prospects of going into medicine and, a family that's supportive and et cetera. So there was kind of all of these puzzle pieces that should be coming together. But similarly to what you said and some of the other women, I felt deeply dissatisfied. Like, is this all that there is? The pursuit of wealth and the pursuit of not necessarily wealth, but riches and material things didn't really resonate with me. Even as a younger person, I just felt disconnected with my peers. I felt like there has to be more than this. So it led to feeling depressed, right? Because I felt like I wasn't feeling a sense of fulfillment. So for me, I would say dissatisfaction with my surroundings is what prompted me to start investigating first about myself, and then how I could serve others. Was a discovery that, okay, my sense of fulfillment comes from a need to serve others in different ways. And so for me, that's what kind of budded me being able to branch out and start my non-for-profit, is a deep desire to be able to serve. And then, the wealth, I think it springs from that. So as we're walking naturally in our calling and our purpose, as everyone has spoken to here, I think the wealth will naturally come forth when we kind of take those steps to first investigate who we are and then how can we best impact our world and our society.
Yes. I love all you guys' answers. When I think about wealth, I also think about the feeling we get, because I think a lot of times we get up and that emptiness, our purpose is what's driving us to continue going. And that wealth can also be translated as like a drive, a feeling to get up and do it. And what's great about all of you guys' cases was that it seemed like your transformation came from either a relationship or someone telling you that you couldn't do it. So I think a lot of times we go through hard times and we think why, and essentially it always leads us to our passion or our purpose in life. So I would love to learn more about Anna. Like, Everyone knows the story about insurance companies. So I would love for you to speak more about that and kind of give insight to that. Because I remember going to insurance company and, people telling me it's a multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah.
But you've made 6 figures, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And tell us more about what that journey was like.
Yeah. So when I came into the industry, like I mentioned, I was very nervous. I didn't really know what to expect because I came into an office at the time where I was the youngest person there. So I was like, I was intimidated. I didn't know anything about life insurance. I didn't know anything about retirement. Just being very transparent where I come from and being in a Latino household, like we don't talk about those things. I never knew how much my parents made or all those different things. So it was very just frowned down upon, like you figure it out later. So when I came into the industry, I had no family support. In fact, when I told my family, they're like, yeah, stay away with me. Don't talk about that. Like, you're going to jinx yourself, right? And I was like, am I doing the right thing? I started questioning myself because I'm like, everybody talks so negatively about life insurance. And I was like, I need to sit down. I need to figure out why people think this way and why have they thought about this way for so many years. So I started doing my own research and I started learning more about the industry. And I realized that there's a lot more to the insurance industry than what people just quote unquote that is just for when somebody passes away. In fact, the reason why they call it life insurance because there's a lot of good benefits and resources that you can utilize while you're living that a lot of wealthy have really abused in a positive way throughout the years. And it's caused a lot of success for them where they've been able to utilize life insurance as their own bank, right? Where they can invest into different things. But when it came towards the business side, a lot of people were like, you're going to quit. You're not going to last. Especially with you being a minority woman in that industry. It's a male dominated industry. So for me, I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong because I like a challenge. I like people telling me that I can't do something because I'm going to go and show you that I can do it. Right. So no matter how hard it was, I still kept doing it. I built my business, not in the industry. They say you can buy leads, but I'm like, I'm going to try a different approach because I want to teach people how they can go into an industry like this and not invest so much and they can get a great return out of it. So I had to go out there and get out of my comfort zone, meet new people, network. I had to go to networking events. I remember the first time I went out to the mall and I'm like, I'm just going to go and talk to people. Horrible thing because I didn't really know what to say or what to do. So it was trial and error. But the more I started doing it, the better I got with conversations. And I realized that it's not about products and services. It's a people business. If you fall in love with helping people, everything else is just going to fall into place. Mm-hmm. So I started branding myself. I started marketing myself. I love social media like TikTok, Instagram, all that. That's my thing. Okay. Like I like to utilize it. I'm like, I used to think TikTok was for kids and I'm like, no, people are making money from TikTok. Mm-hmm. So it's like the new Google. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put 15 minute videos and 10 60-second videos, and people started reaching out to me, and I grew my brand from there. And then I'm really big on referrals. Like I believe referrals will take your business to a whole different level. So, but that's in part of you creating a relationship with people. So once I master those things, and I'm still learning, right? Like I feel like there's a lot more that I have to learn, but I've been able to teach other people how to do that too, where they can erase that stigma and feel like, hey, I don't come from this industry, but I'm like, hey, even though if you don't come from this industry, I have a system in place where I can show you and I can teach you and I can develop you where you can learn these things. So, of course, having a mentor that's really helped, especially being in this industry. I have a mentor who's a multicultural woman who comes from a completely different background, who was a single mother. And she said, hey, if you just stick to this and you don't quit, I guarantee you're going to make multiple 6 figures. And it happened. So now it's like, okay, I got to show other people how to do that too. But it's been a great journey, I would say. And now that I talk more about it and I'm more confident about it, it's cool because now I change people's perspective about it, not just about what life insurance does and how it helps people, but also how the industry is creating a lot of millionaires. It's putting people in a position, even if somebody just wanted to make just a regular extra $1,000 in income, that can help them in today's economy. So if I can put people in a position on how to do that by educating them and showing them a system, it's done a lot for me. And I every day I strive to show people like, hey, what you think this is, it's not really that. But let me show you how you can prepare, especially in today's economy and also too for your future.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people
are afraid to take those steps. And I guess it's testimony that, all of you guys sitting here who run these successful businesses, because we don't see a lot of shows on successful women. We see it about, successful men in different verticals. So to actually have a passion and a drive and then be willing to educate, because you can't educate everybody. Yeah. Everybody's not willing to listen. No, that's true. You're going to get sometimes you're beating the dead horse. So I love that. I love that. Tori, you have a very unique business. Have you faced any challenges in that positioning?
Yes, I have. Because open relationships aren't the norm. And for those who like the traditional thing, they can't wrap their head around it. And so then they project when I am in a normal space talking about it. I've had someone, so as a matchmaker, we are collaborative. We also do referrals. And when there was a time where I was looking for a client or another matchmaker's client, and I was recruiting and I was talking to women, and, there was this woman that I was talking with and it was going really well. And I had asked a question that offended her, and that led to her daughter coming to my Instagram. And then she's like, "Oh, you think humans are terrible at being monogamous? I don't even want you talking to my mom." And I'm like, "Okay, no problem." But then they took it a step further, and then got me removed from the Facebook group that I was in, because they thought that I was like a fake person, that I was being like, that I was so inappropriate for existing in this group, for doing what I was doing in my own business. It had nothing to do with what I was conversing with this person. So that was awful. That was a terrible feeling, because it's like, I lead with good intentions. I am just wanting to, find where there's compatibility with people. And I also understand that non-monogamy is not for everyone, although I think it could be. But I don't think someone should criticize someone for what they do in their love life and what they want to do in their relationships. And so that was definitely a challenge that I went through. And that was definitely a learning experience on how to communicate with people online in that case. But since then, I actually haven't really had that much hate or anything crazy coming at me about my business. It's actually been very supportive, because non-monogamy is becoming normalized. It is being seen everywhere, and people do want people to live in their lives and be happy for the most part, but there are people who are against it and fight it and whatnot. So luckily I'm unapologetically myself, and I'm continuously educating people. And I come from a point where I help new people who are interested in this. If you tell me I have interest in this, can you help me? I'm like, here are my resources. This is what you should do. This is a mentality you should have. This is what you can expect, because it is a very common experience that everyone goes through. It's pretty wild to open yourself and have a partner that is open to other people, because you have to have it's the epitome of trust, and you have to overly communicate, and you can't hold resentment. And it's once you reach that space where you can just say anything you want open and freely about anything, right? Your desires and your fantasies, and having a supportive partner, and that turns into compersion, and then you're happy for your partner being happy. And that looks very different in a lot of different ways. So, while there are challenges, I continuously strive to move forward, because I know this is what a lot of people do want. And I'm happy to be that resource and bring this unconventional love and into the world.
Yeah. I love how people in their situations are kind of forced to sit down and have those conversations, and probably have put aside, the jealous side in order to share their partner. That takes a very mature individual to be able to share their lover. Yeah. So it definitely pushes people to a new level of understanding. And so, Olivia, tell us about the Tony Robbins. I'm dying to hear.
I'm passionate about that. Yeah, so Tony Robbins, I got to walk on fire 7 times, because right after I dove all in.
Literally walk on fire?
Walk on fire. It's
part of the program?
Yeah, so it's hot coals. They burn hot coals by the end of the first day. Tony's so good at putting people in a state of mind where you're going to say yes, you're going to walk those coals. So for me, it was I'm going to go all in. I'm going to search more of myself. And so when I went to Dallas, the first event, I was like, no, this is crazy. How could anybody walk on fire? So by the end of the night, what he does this really smart strategy where he'll take you up until like 3 a.m, but only because after midnight, our subconscious mind takes over, which is really smart. Our subconscious mind takes over after we're like a little tired. So then he starts giving you some incantations, and you start speaking about what you want and eliminating what you fear. So at the end of the night, like when the coals are there, he has you look at the coals as a fear and an obstacle that you're going to conquer. So you don't look at if your feet are going to you look at what's at the end of those coals. You look at what you've taken care of, what you defeated in yourself. So my first fire walk, I had some blisters, but I only knew after that, the rest of the fire walks, I didn't have any blisters or anything, but because I realized that the first time I was more fearful and I was more doubtful. And then the other few times that I did it, I was like, let's go. I'm all in. And you just see the end and you transform yourself. And it's like that board breaking that guy did the other day, because you're focusing more on the outcome and you're not stuck in the middle and that's life and business. That's how we should look at everything, where we're going to look at what's at the end. We're not going to know how it's going to happen that we get there, but we're going to celebrate and we're going to see the end. And once we're there, we're going to be like, wow, this is a new person that's showing up. And that's who showed up for me after the first firewalk. So after the first firewalk, I was very passionate. So then Tony has people that crew for him that help thousands of participants do the event. So I traveled to Dallas. I went to Las Vegas, New York. I traveled all across the country just to serve. And because one of the things with Tony Robbins, the biggest quote is, the reason for living is giving. And once you give of yourself, you're going to start to realize that everybody wants to give to you. And life is service. So once I did that, it was like I went all in and I became a raving fan. And now with my business and what I do, it's like I want to over deliver like he does, because I want people to say, you know what, she gave me so much value that I'm going to go back to her. Or she cared so much, she actually sees me that I want to go back to her. Because that's how I feel at those seminars, because when you're serving and you're giving, there's no way that God is not going to say, you know what, here you go. And you don't do it for that reason. You do it because it's a greater purpose. And that's why I'm passionate about Tony Robbins. So I recommend that you go to one of his events.
Pastor, is that what I heard?
You did, but Jenabelle is just fine.
Okay. Tell us about that road.
Yeah. So I would say, like I said, initially starting off with a sense of dissatisfaction, exploring myself. I think all of us, I'm sure, come from different faith backgrounds. But oftentimes, growing up at home is where you get your first exposure to any kind of faith, and outside of just faith, right? I want to broaden the scope. Your money principles, your principles about business and about life and about your relationships. So all those things, those fundamentals are oftentimes built in your home. And so when you grow up and you leave your home structure, now it's up to you to kind of decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to leave. So for me, I didn't really grow up very religious. We were very spiritual, coming from a Caribbean background. We're very into like the spiritual things, but we weren't necessarily very religious. And so I had a moment where I wanted to explore for myself who I am in this area of my life in regards to spirituality. And so that took me on a journey in college, and then later on coming to my church home. And then we talked about like exploring oneself. So in that exploration, I discovered that my skill sets in leadership, in organization, in talking to people, in the love of service, all kind of culminated in this role of being a pastor. And so I think at the time I was ordained, I was like maybe the youngest, or if not the youngest people in my church. To be ordained, it's a privilege. But outside of just that role, I think that, like I said, it's up to us to make the decision of what things we're going to keep and what things that we're going to leave out when we're coming out of our family structures. And that has to do with every aspect of life, right? So for me, I think that there are a lot of things in my family that I developed and I loved about discipline, about resilience, about perseverance. But there are some aspects about maybe being more consistent about one's faith that I didn't develop at home, and I wanted to cultivate that outside. So I think relating it back to wealth, business, mindset, we have the ability to decide what we want, who we want to become, right? And so I think that when we again become adults and we're now outside in the world, there are a lot of things that we do subconsciously because that's what's been ingrained into us as children. But then taking that time to really sit down with oneself and say, who am I and who do I want to be? And then when you have that moment, you can start to identify, oh, this is what my mom used to do, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. Not because I don't like her, I'm disrespecting her, but I want to evolve and be something else. So I think being intentional about having those moments, sitting with oneself, and then determining, like you said, this is the end goal. This is the vision for myself, not just in the business, but in every aspect of life. And then what steps do I need to take to become that person? For me, I used to be like, even me talking right now is like a testimony because I was like so shy. I was so quiet to myself, like a little girl with like 2 pigtails. So to see like this development even till now is amazing. But it's because I think one of the things is the vision that I had for me. It's like I see a woman who's poised. I see a woman who's well-spoken. I see a woman of substance. I see a woman who has the financial means to be able to give not only to her family, but to others because I have that heart posture, but I need the physical, income to be able to do so. And so part of becoming a pastor in that spiritual journey and road is taking steps towards that woman that I want to become.
Wow. I love the quote you had about heart posture. Because I think a lot of times I find that because I was ingrained with a certain type of faith, it gave me limiting beliefs that I had to overcome. And it was not always right in the surroundings that I was in, Lucindy, please tell us a little bit about your journey and how your divorce kind of led to your purpose.
Well, honestly, my divorce didn't lead to it. It started way before, then my journey. People always say that my life sounds like a Lifetime movie because it started way before then. Coming from an abusive background, and then being forced to depend on yourself, which is where I found my faith. So I didn't know what I was made out of until I was put in a position where there was neglect, where there was abandonment, where there was, abuse. And so when I went to SIU from Aunt Martha's shelter, and they were my legal guardian.
This is domestic violence.
No, it wasn't for domestic violence. Me and my mother just, we have always had a very relationship, unfortunately, that's just, I feel God used it to shape me who I am today. So I will leave it at that, just respectfully, right? So I went to SIU pregnant with my first son when I was 19. And, that whole journey of being an undergrad and no support, figuring life out on my own. And, I had gotten into, you get with the wrong crowd to survive, right? And caught up in things. And then you start relationships and going through the ups and downs of those. And so you're dealing with cheating. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with, like I said, the domestic abuse, verbal abuse. You have nowhere to turn. You're almost getting ready to get kicked out. You do all that only to your family betrays you. You take all these dynamics of the closest ones to you that's supposed to help cultivate you and mold you and shaping you into who you are to be in this life, who are supposed to be the greatest protectors. And that's where the greatest hurt and pain come. And out of that hurt and pain and that suffering, it molded me into the woman that I am, the woman of faith that I am now. So now, because of the abandonment, the abuse, the rejection, right? The religious spirits of being overly critical. So I grew up in a Christian home with an overcritical mother. Okay. My father was very abusive. And so, when you don't have those, that support and those accolades coming from the ones that you needed the most from to validate you as a child, as a teenager, as a young woman, it is very easy to give up on your faith. It's very easy to rebel and to do the things in which the majority of people tend to do when you rebel. You turn to alcoholism, drugs, sex, pride. You understand? And so because I've been in that and around it, and then having my own family and now having that dynamic of the betrayal of a husband, and I have that dynamic to add onto my plate of experience and challenges that I had to overcome. It molded me, and what it did was, what I tell people, it added fuel to my passion. That's what it did. So I told God, I said, because this is where I learned. People ask me all the time, how did you become your faith? How did you have this? Your faith is where it is. Cause I do have a faith that I'm not afraid. And I know that if I want something, it will happen. Of course, if it's within his will. I don't have any reservations, and I don't have any hesitations or fear when it comes to that. But the thing is that when you've gone through so much by yourself and you learned your power, you learned the power through the one that is within you. And you understand what you're capable of when it comes to the challenges, then guess what? It fuels my passion, and it lets me know that I'm in the right place at the right time when it comes to my purpose and what I'm doing now, speaking, whether I'm doing it as a motivational speaker or as a prophet. I am doing that which I was fashioned and created in this world to do, because now I have the relatability factor. Now I have the credibility factor, because there's every situation when I talk, people usually can relate to it, whether it's coming from corporate and dealing with, dysfunction of corporate and the whole reasons as why they're trying to, climb a corporate ladder, or the higher ups are, the diversity inclusion that is either there or not there, or when it's being abused, or, you're dealing with the challenges of your children, teenagers and family and grown children, and that dynamic. And then the betrayal of a parent or a non-parent, or that dynamic. And you have a relationship, and you have the dynamic of a person that you trusted and gave your heart to, and then you cheat, and then this videotaped, and you're witnessing everything, and your child betrays you, and then you have friends who betray you, and then you have to deal with that, but you're educated, and people judge you because of your beauty, and they judge you because they think that you got it like that, and they don't know that you lost it all. And you lost it all so you can go back and tell them how to regain it. And that's my passion. My passion is fueled from every circumstance, every challenge, every loss, every shame, every embarrassment. That's who I am. And now I'm not a victim of it. You understand what I'm saying? That is my purpose. That is what I was put here to do. My purpose, my struggle and challenges were predestined for me, and I overcame them, and I am still overcoming them. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes me passionate.
Mm. I love that. You're going to make me cry. Okay, so has anyone else had relationships that transformed them in a way that you feel I could have still did my transformation without going through the hurt and pain? I do you think you would have still did what you had to do, or learned how to be in a space of silence, right? Because when you're in a relationship with someone, you're working as a team. Anna, tell us about that partnership with your husband and kind of how that is in business for you too. Yeah, well, it's funny because we're both very alpha, right? So in the beginning, it was very hard to work with him. I'll be very transparent and honest, because he had his views, I had my views, and sometimes the arguments would just overpower everything. So it was to a point where I'm like, this is not going to work. People always say spouses shouldn't work together. Families shouldn't work together. It's just not a good mix. Never mix business and pleasure together. But we wanted to erase that stigma too. And I'm not going to lie, it was hard at times. But I also had to take a step back and I'm like, okay, instead of always pointing back at each other what you're doing wrong and what you're not doing right, this is hurting our business. And we had to look back, okay, like these current arguments, are they going to matter 5 years from now? So why are we wasting 5 minutes on it right now? So it was a lot of growing, a lot of developing. I wish I would have process things better because I feel like on both ends it hurt our business at certain times because we dwelled so much in the wrong things versus the right things. And I could take accountability for that. Back then, if you were to ask me the same question, I'd be like, I'm not wrong. He's the wrong one. I don't do no wrong and that's just it. And I used to be like, I know it all. And I'm like, girl, like that's your ego talking. Like that's your pride talking. Instead of building this man up, you're breaking him down. And instead of helping him become the next best version of who he's supposed to be, you're pushing him back. And it's allowing him to shut down. And that would be the same thing on my end. I feel like sometimes he would try to silence me or do certain things. I'm like, listen, that just doesn't work. So what are you great at? And what do you like and what you don't like? And I'm going to tell you what I do like and what I don't like. So then we started figuring out. So we started working better in business. And then when it came time to our goals, I was like, okay, you can have your own goals and I can have my own goals, but we have to have center goals at the same time too, right? Like, because my vision may be a lot different from yours. And I realized that it was like, I was chasing after something different, even though we were working together. I'm like, I'm chasing after something different, completely different than him. And there was no clarity. I remember one time our CEO said, he asked me and him like, what are you guys excited about? 2 different things. Right. And then he's like, what are you guys excited about together? And we're like, like stuttering. So we didn't know what to say. And so I'm like, he's like, you guys need to get together. You guys need to get aligned. Your business is going to catapult and it's going to 10x when you guys align and you guys become as one. He's like, you guys can still have your own identities, right? And that's how we are in the business. Like we work together as one. And now I understand that certain things he's better at, and I'm okay with saying that. And I'm better in certain areas, and he's okay to let me do my own thing. Versus back then, again, I'll be honest, because I had a lot of ego back in the day, okay? And I was like, I felt like I had to compete with my man. I felt like I had to do better than him. I had to show up and show more because, again, being a woman in the industry that I'm in, men are usually pushed more to the forefront, and the spouse is just on the side, just being the pretty thing. And I didn't want to be that. Right. I was like, I'm not going to be in front of you. I'm not going to be behind you. I'm going to be beside you, and we're going to do this together. But I had to learn how to better operate with that because I was like, man, like people ask me, how do you work with your spouse? How do you guys make it happen? I can't do it. I'm like, I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's beautiful when you guys get aligned and you guys have clarity. And we're not perfect now still, right? We still argue but we argue better, right? And I've learned to argue better. Like, okay, babe, you know what? You're right. You got it. And he'll be like, you know what? You got it. Thank you for your perspective, instead of thinking it's an attack. And before we have a conversation too, that's a tough conversation because crucial conversations are much to be had. Okay. But when we have a conversation, we're going to say, hey, I always tell them, I say, hey, spouse to the side, let's talk CEO to CEO right now. Where did you drop the ball? How could you have gotten better? Where did I drop the ball and where could have I gotten better? And that's prevented, and it's allowed us to grow so much more where we've been able to grow our business. When we minimize the who does this and who doesn't do that, we grew. I saw our business go from hurting and almost falling down to the ground to saying, hey, we need to like put our emotions, our ego to the side, and we need to work together. But let's find our own identities, but still be one. And that's where we went from 50, 75,000, 100,000 and forward, right? So I'm like, okay, now that I've worked better with my spouse, it's been a lot easier, but we don't silence each other. We give ourselves a platform to speak, even when it's tough, because it's not easy. back then you probably heard like we were getting into arguments. I would be so embarrassed because we would be in the office with people and we would try to argue low, but then, like, you know what, babe, you're right. And I just let him have it. So I let my man be a man in the business and he lets me be a woman, and we both have our own identities and we work. So we're still growing. We're not perfect yet, but we're a lot better than what we were a few years ago. So it's been a better dynamic since then.
I appreciate that. I think there is favor in union, whether that be platonic or marriage. And it doesn't matter. So I think what's really great about even Tori's business is that I see much union because a lot of people can align with, I shouldn't feel so much pressure in their relationships. And it opens that door for those talks. Like, there are a lot of people, like I was telling Tori, that are in polyamorous relationships that don't know they're in a polyamorous relationship.
Unethical.
Yeah. So, Tori, tell us a little bit. So you have Navy background?
Yes.
Navy background. So how you went through the boot camp, do you see some of those traits helping you pushing forward in some of your businesses and your perspectives?
Yes, I do. It definitely reminded, my military experience reminds me I can do hard things. And you have to push through with your commitments. And, there is and for when I was in the military, I always set personal goals, because when you're in the military, you're just told what to do. And, I can't help with the growth of the business there. So I just went day by day. But, in my time, I learned what I wanted to learn. And, so I learned work-life balance as well. And that has improved my life and enjoyment, and that has transferred to what I do now. So when things are really hard and really challenging, I manage my time based on, if I'm at work, it's all about work. But if I'm off, time, or it's the weekend, I really take a step back, unless I'm bored or something, I'll maybe get something done or whatever. But because of you have to have mental toughness in the military. It's who you're around, and you're forced to be around people that you don't want to be around, which has also led me to I only want to work for people that I like, or I want to surround myself with people that I like. And I don't want to, I want to be able to have a say in what we do next, or what the next moves are, which you can't do in the military. So a lot of my negative experiences in the military has led me to creating a life and a business that aligns with me wholly. And I can say no to whoever I want. I can say yes to whoever I want. And you can't do that in the military. So because of those experiences that I had led me to, it's a reminder constantly of why I am doing what I'm doing and why I like what I'm doing. There's no, of course there's other options, but there's no other option. I'm doing this. I'm staying put. And another thing that I did in the military was I always had goals, and that was what got me through as well. In the military, it was education. What a lot of people don't do in the military is get their education done through tuition assistance. So I was a full-time student while working full-time military, and I did a lot of classes at one time, or I even did classes when I was on deployments and on my ships. And so so I finished my associates and I finished my bachelor's, and then when I was out of the military, I was pretty much done with my bachelor's. So then I'm okay, I have a whole GI Bill to use that I haven't dived into. Let me use my master's. So then I went and got them and created a life and a business for me that I can be in control, but I'm also collaborative at the same time. And I know where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are. And I'm also happy to delegate, and I'm happy to, let the experts do their thing and just let them make the decisions for me, please. And so that's kind of why, my business is the way it is now. And it is through my military experience, I would say. And also, the interesting thing about the military is you can get in trouble for being non-monogamous. So you can go to the brig, you can go to jail if you get caught in the military having an open relationship. And understandably, there are reasons why, because you can get someone pregnant, and then it's what do you do then? And because you get benefits for being married in the military and whatnot. So they avoid that, or there's infidelity that happens all the time, and they'll get in trouble. It's just cheating and infidelity can just ruin workplaces, because especially if you're doing it in the workplace. So there's that. And so we had to keep that part of ourselves secret because you can get in trouble for it. And so I'm like, well, let me get out of the military and then be open, honest, authentic, tell everyone about it. And that's what we're doing now. And so and I put myself in a position where no one could alter my life other than myself. And that's a very powerful position to be in.
I love that.
So the military taught you how to lean in and face those challenges.
It's crazy because we have Olivia, where Tony Robbins' approach is kind of
Lean in.
Is his also leaning in?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the military, it can teach you to kind of lean in and work through those challenges.
Mm-hmm. We have other perspectives that will say kind of detach and accept what's going on and don't fight it. So I think it's amazing how it's kind of translated over to your beliefs, because I think the inner voice is listening to everyone around you, and it's saying, "Oh, this is right and this is wrong," but then it's not till you get to like a certain stage in life where you're like, "No, I have my own voice. That if I don't follow it, it's going to create a lot of conflict."
It's so painful to not speak out.
Right.
So, but when you are in a position like the military where you can't speak out, or if you do, it doesn't matter, you create a space that you can have that. So you can get that out and put it out there and make moves and all that.
And give the space for other people to do that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone's fighting the battlefield of the mind. I like the speaker called Joyce Meyer. She talks about the battlefield of the mind. So I love that. Olivia, tell us a little bit about how, like, exactly the words that you hear when you're, like, spiraling and how you get out of it.
Spiraling. I used to spiral a lot. I call it suffering because there's states, the beautiful states of consciousness, and they're suffering states of consciousness. So when we're depressed, when we're angry, when our ego is taking control, those are suffering states. That's spiraling. That's lower consciousness. So upper consciousness is beautiful states. Before it used to take control of me, and a lot of people it does, you get a bad thought. The thought goes with you throughout the day. Even the next morning, you feel like not good. You still feel sad, or you still have those thoughts. So I only give myself 7 minutes to feel that anger, that remorse, that lower emotion. And I'm like, snap out of it, because it takes a decision. It's just you snap yourself out of it. And like, I could choose to be so grateful. Why am I choosing to be unhappy about something that I cannot control? So for me, when I go into the spiral effect, gratitude, for me, it's lifting myself up, being grateful for what I do have, focusing on the good instead of the bad, focusing on the gifts that God has given me every single day to be alive, to be here, to be able to speak, to be able to walk. Little things that we take for granted can get us out of that spiral where we're feeling low about whether, your business is not doing as much as you want it to be doing. But then it's like there's people that have $1 million or a billionaire and they're miserable and they're living in this lower state of consciousness. And it's like, why? You have everything you need to be happy, but yet you're miserable. The thing is, you need to tune into what is beautiful in your life. And how can you tune into what is beautiful in your life? When you go into gratitude, when you appreciate every single moment. And I was in a relationship for 8 years. Just last year, it broke off. And I went into a spiral. And even my business started being affected. And I started realizing that the only thing that could get me out of that spiral, out of that suffering state, was calling myself back. Olivia, you're too far in the future. Olivia, you're too far in the past. And when I started calling myself back, it was like being grounded into the now. It was like God was saying, come back, come back. What are you doing? Why is that thought there? Come back. Or why are you still dwelling on what's not here present? So when you get into a bad spiral situation, I invite you to come back to the present moment and appreciate the now and appreciate what you have, because even to be breathing is a gift for me.
Yeah. I think as a pastor, you could probably attest to helping those people process things, because when you're in the spiraling, you don't necessarily want to, someone telling you, be grateful. You ain't trying to hear none of that. You trying to let me, And I think people, which you could probably attest to, is like you're helping them process their emotion. How does that relate in your mentorship when you're a pastor?
Yeah, for sure. I think that first, it's okay to have feelings, and it's okay to, as you said, acknowledge how we feel in the moment. It's part of how we're built as human beings, and our feelings are telling us something. So, for example, a fear is telling us that, for me, either you don't have that confidence or trust in God in a particular situation, that means that you don't have the confidence and trust in yourself. So each emotion is communicating something to us about our state of being at that moment. And so, as you said, I don't dismiss, for young women that I mentor, I don't dismiss their feelings or their emotions, which oftentimes I think people can do. And I think that can lead to a lot of intrinsic damage over time for individuals who feel like I just can't express myself, or how I'm expressing myself is bad or wrong. So I think first acknowledging that your emotions are normal. Now, whether or not you allow those emotions to control your life and your environment, like she talked about, that's up to you. So the fact that a situation happened, a circumstance is happening right now, and I have an emotion, that's normal. But to allow that emotion and that feeling to take the precedent of my entire life and my entire atmosphere and the atmosphere of my life, that's my decision. And so taking your power back, I think, in the decisions that we make about how we feel, as she so rightly said, sometimes we don't have control over the circumstances that do happen, but we do know that all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. And so if I have that confidence, then I can acknowledge my emotion. I can walk through my emotion, right? Because it's a biological thing that's happening. Whenever we experience something, there are neurotransmitters that are going through the brain. And so it's something that you can literally walk yourself through. But then what I'm not going to do is enter into a space where I'm allowing what's happening with me as a biological response or a psychological response to contradictory circumstances to now overtake everything that's happening in my life. And so there's a maturity, I think, that has to happen in our mindset about how we view what's going on in the moment in the view of the grand scheme of things. That answer the question?
Yes, that's great.
Thank you. I agree. Yeah, I think when you find yourselves in that situation, a lot of people are in the suffering so much that they don't think that next week it could be different, or in 24 hours, because I could be spiraling something out that morning, and then 4 o'clock I'm like, let's go, But what happened this morning? I find that when I go through seasons and I figure out this is a pattern of behavior, this is the results it's getting me, how can I change my reaction? And it could just be my response to the circumstance. And then that circumstance, if I change it, my life shifts quickly. I don't have to stay there, but I have to keep making the decision to transform the circumstance.
Very good. True.
Listen, tell me about a time you transformed the circumstances by changing your reaction to it. Which one?
Literally, right? Or a change. I mean, honestly, I can look at my whole entire life events, including the ones from this present year and last year. Because the moment I shifted my mental paradigm to realize that I can't change people and how they choose to treat me or what they choose to do to me, but I can choose how I respond to it. I can choose faith. I can choose to let go and surrender and allow God to fight my battles. Because if in fact I believe him when he says vengeance is mine, if I believe him when he says that he is my help, my provider, my peace, and all these wonderful things that we grow up listening to and taking in, when that becomes challenged and now it's time to implement and to engage in whether or not we can, allow our faith to be at the forefront, that's what has shifted and transformed my whole entire life and circumstances, is not allowing the battles and the losses, the defeats, and everything that I've gone through to allow me to give up, allow me to, take a different pathway other than the one that God set for me. In other words, getting off into another career or getting busy doing something else. Or like some people, for example, relationships, when they go through a breakup, a divorce, they jump right into another relationship, right into the bed of another, so changing the responses of even with corporate, and you have a boss with no integrity, that's egotistical, barbaric, and changing how I respond to that and understanding that they're the problem. And my solution is how I respond to that problem. And so understanding whose I am and who I am, that settles that. Because once you know who you are and whose you are, it puts you already above the issue. So I've already won. And that is what everything in my life that brought me to this point right here on the Unapologetically Molly show. It's like my response is I choose not to go low. I choose to step back. And my favorite thing that I tell my children, that I tell my friends, in my mind, I get my popcorn, I have my lazy boy, my recliner, and I sit back and say, God, you're going to take this one. Now they think that they've won, whether it's a boss, whether it's an infidelity issue, a child that's unruly, whether it's a girlfriend that is, trying to betray, or whatever the circumstances is, I silence myself. Now I'm very assertive. I'm not a pushover. You understand? I'm not a footstool. I will assert myself respectfully, and I will let things be known. And because I am a woman of integrity, and I expect integrity from others, but unfortunately, you don't get that. But what I don't do is I don't engage in, like she was talking about, a certain mindset that's defeated, that allows me to vibrate from a lower subconscious place, or where I'm giving over into my emotions negatively and allowing myself to give that opposition or that challenge what it's looking for, and that's defeat. That's having a victim mentality. Making me feel bad about who I am or why I am. Making me feel that I should be apologetic about my faith, apologetic about how I assert myself or my beliefs or values. And so that's the method that I choose to take, is to just allow myself to sit back, allow, because I'm gonna do a shameless plug with the Jesus, my big brother Jesus, and God. That's who transformed my mental faculties. That's who transformed my emotional state of well-being. That's who transformed my finances and my relationships with my children, with myself. So I didn't want to get all the way on the Unapologetically Molly show on this great and beautiful platform and act like I don't know who helped me get there. You know what I mean? So come on now. Come on now.
With you.
So I have some help. Mm-hmm. But that's
Beautiful.
Okay, ladies, tell me about a time that you had to be assertive, right? Whether that be in business or personal, and accept that that person was just not in alignment with essentially your standards.
That's good.
Anybody? No?
I can.
Okay.
So I do sales and marketing also with attorneys, and I help radiology facilities, attorneys and doctors. I build relationships. I do networking events. So in me, there's a certain integrity you must have. And when some attorney showed up with no integrity. And then they started saying, well, this is what's going on. And it wasn't true. I felt like, how can I change this perspective? So I had to be very assertive of how I came across with these attorneys, because a lot of attorneys, and I don't want to generalize, but it's a lot of lie. You have to scheme things, lie to get to win a case. And then I felt like, if I can be a little assertive and have him change his perspective, I just stood my ground. I'm like, no, this is not how it is. This client is this way and this way. And then I felt like I didn't have to change the perspective of the person. I felt that by being authentically me, knowing who I am, that I'm not out for anything, then I felt like they resonated. They connected with me, like, well, Olivia, she has nothing to gain from this. If anything, she's trying to help us. So I can be assertive, but in a very nice way. I don't have to push myself on anybody. I can be very assertive, and I could just show presence in my own authenticity. So I did that in that. And I do that a lot with when I meet people that really, how would I say, are in a different space. I feel like I can influence them only when I can understand and appreciate their world. Like, I cannot influence anybody on here if I don't know what you've lived. I cannot connect with you on a deeper level if I don't know the background that you come from. So I feel like I'm assertive in a way that I want to genuinely know your story. And then after that, it becomes a relationship where you and me, we want to serve and help each other. And that's how I feel I could be assertive.
You see. So you understand their story and you relate to them.
Yes.
And then you kind of approach them that way.
Yes.
Okay. I love that. Anna, working in a male-dominated industry, I'm sure you have some stories about being assertive and kind of pulling back and tell us.
That with working with being in a male-dominated industry, but also too, when I started the industry, I was very young. So in an industry where you work with a lot of different age groups, sometimes with you being a younger person, I would come across some people who would say, oh, well, what do you know? Because you're young, you're a woman, you're a minority. So at times I used to believe that, like, okay, I have to silence myself. Like, they're right. Like, they do know more than me because they have more experience than me. And that was me lacking confidence in myself. And one day I just kind of woke up and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm great at what I do. And it doesn't matter what age I am or what, I have a lot of wisdom. Like, I feel like yes, I'm young in age. I'm always going to be forever 21, right? But I know as I'm getting older, I've gained a lot of wisdom. And if you've been in business for some time, you've gone through so much. Just in anything, I feel like you gain wisdom throughout the years when life has beat you up in so many different directions. And I've learned a lot in this industry. But there were times where people try to challenge what I said, or they would try to see, like, is she really about what she says she is? And they'll, like, not provoke me, but they'll try to see, like, okay, is she really going to stand her ground? So there's been actually multiple times where I've had to do that, where I've had to show people, like, hey, and just like Cindy mentioned earlier, like, I'm a nice person, but I'm not a pushover. And you got to understand that I have certain values, that I have certain principles that I stand by, and I have non-negotiables in business. We can have a great business, we can have a great relationship outside of this, but when it comes to certain things that I believe in, that I stand in, that I know are ethical and that are true, I'm going to always stand my ground and stay by it. And when people started seeing that, they're like, okay, she's small, but she's not nothing to play with. Like, people started respecting me more, and people started saying, okay, like, you know what? And I've heard this all the time. Like, you know, one thing about Anna, they'll say, like, Anna, she's predictable. She's not going to tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. She's going to stand on what she believes in. And it took a lot for me to get there. And it took a lot for me to show people that, you know what, yeah, you may not agree with me and you may not say, hey, I don't believe in what you believe in, but they're going to respect it because I stand by it at the end of the day. So I've been able to overcome a lot of challenges with working with men, because sometimes men, right, they have ego, especially when there's a woman who is has reached certain pinnacles that they haven't reached yet, or just women in general. They don't, sometimes, not every man, but it's hard to take orders or to take counsel from a woman sometimes. And they've seen that because of my leadership, because of my experience, and because of my wisdom, now they're open to counsel. Now they respect me. They give the same respect that they would give my spouse, whether if he's in the room or not. And just working with every age group as well, they're like, she knows her stuff, right? So, and that for me, being a student in any business, it's very important, because you can be 18 years old and you can be sitting with a 60-year-old, but if you know what you're talking about, they're going to gain your respect and they're going to do business with you. So I had to learn early on, like, I'm young in this industry, but I have to let people take me more serious. So I had to change the way I looked. Still stay true to myself, of course, right? Like, I'm from the trenches. I'm a trench baby, right? And that's just who I am. And people love that. But I do have this part of me too, where I know how to put that to the side and be professional, right? And people, they respect that. So I've gained a lot of respect from both male and just from all different demographics, because I stay true to myself and I stand ground in what I say. So, was it always easy? No, but it took a while to get there. But now I command respect when I walk into a room, because I'm going to give you respect, you know? So, that's very big for me, but I've been able to overcome that. Sometimes people still try to, challenge me a little bit, but, they respect it.
So last question, most important question. What are you unapologetic for?
I'll go first. I'm unapologetic for me, right? And people have asked me that question. I'm like, me? And they'll be like, what do you mean me? But me. But I feel like it's taken so long for me to get to where I am today. And I'm still a work in progress. And I live by three things. I live by confidence, competent, and to be courageous. That's really big for me. Those are my values and principles for myself. But I've been through so much, especially in life. I was telling Olivia earlier, growing up in a Mexican household, sometimes you're forced to wear a mask. You're forced to be somebody that you're not. You're forced to be a people pleaser just to kind of conform to what they say. And my entire life, I lived that way. And I just wasn't happy. I felt like, who am I really? Like, who is Anna? Am I living for other people or am I living for myself? And I just found myself not to be happy. I was just like, this is not who I strive to be. Like, I'm making sure everybody is good, but when is Anna going to be good? And I know sometimes society says you can't be selfish, but I do believe that you do have to be selfish with yourself, because if you're not right, your kids aren't right, your household isn't right, your husband isn't right, your business isn't right, nothing is right overall. So I woke up one day and I was like, you know what, girl, like, this ends today. Like, you have to stop living for other people. Like, who is Anna? Who does Anna want to embody? Who does she want to be? What does the next 5, 10, 15-year version of her look like? And I started changing myself. And I'm going to tell you this, being unapologetic, it involves a lot of reinvention, because you have to shed a lot of dead weight. You have to erase a lot of limiting beliefs, mindsets that you've had throughout the years. And I had to do that. And I felt like shackles were taken off of me. I felt like now I'm my true self. And it's crazy, because in business, the greatest compliment that I feel that I've ever gotten is that they do business with me because I'm me and because I'm genuine. I met strangers on TikTok and they'll say, I like you because you were yourself. You were somebody that you weren't trying to be. Like, I'm proud of where I come from. I come from Humboldt Park. I come from the inner city of Chicago. And I used to be embarrassed to say that stuff. I used to feel like I had to talk like other people, walk like other people. And I'm like, that's not me. Like, I could still be very classy and I could still be where I come from and I can make that into one. And I love who I am today. I'm still a work in progress, but now that I'm a mother as well, I want my kids to be unapologetically them all the time. Like my daughter, I was telling the ladies, I have a 3-year-old. She's sassy. She's bossy. She's in your face. She's so confident. And I don't want that. I don't want to erase that from her. And I want to embody love with my kids. I want them to have that because I didn't have that growing up, you know? So I walk in myself and I understand now that some people are going to love me and some people aren't going to love me. And that's okay because at the end of the day, I know that I'm true to myself. And regardless of how people feel, I'm me at the end of the day, and they're going to respect this. So I'm unapologetically me. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Tori, go for it.
I am unapologetic for normalizing ethical non-monogamy. It is way more common than people might think. An example I like to share with people is how common non-monogamy is either you've been cheated on, you've cheated, or you know someone who has. So imagine a world where you have that conversation with your partner before you get hurt, to have the option to opt in or opt out of that decision. Because cheating and breakups and divorce are incredibly painful and they hurt and it affects, 99% of people. And so creating a space to have that conversation ethically is just an absolute game changer. It can be so liberating, especially for women in these spaces. And I am unapologetically happy to be the one to continue to normalize it.
All right, Lucinda. Don't make us cry.
I'm along the lines of Anna, and I know that's one of our questions, and I was pondering on that one. And I am unapologetic about everything that I've had to endure and go through since birth, from my conception, birth up until now, and everything in between, that has literally had the potential to take me out, whether it was suicide, depression, just being able to even turn to my rebellious nature. Like, people don't understand that just because you're a woman of faith, we have a rebellious nature that we have to, suppress, and that we have to kind of give over to God almost every single day, that I choose not to give into because of the things, when you have people, it's so easy you have a thought of what I can do to them, what they've done to me. Or, when you go through things and people say things to you that's out of pocket, the disrespect, the neglect, the betrayal, the negative, words and exchanges that you have with people where they don't believe in you or they speak down on you, and make you feel that you're inadequate, make you feel that you cannot do what it is that you envision yourself to do. And so I said I was shifting the blame, and it made me feel justified as to why I was angry all the time and depressed, and why I responded the way that I did, until I had a great mentor that taught me the responsibility of not only being responsible for my life, but how it's a lack of faith to not be accountable or responsible for, and to let go and to forgive, which is very hard to do when you have decades of abuse or grow up in a critical household, or like you said, your voice is muted. And because I have a heavy voice, I project. I've been told my whole life, Cindy, your voice, it projects. You have a heavy voice. Cindy, I would get in trouble because my voice was heavy. I would get in trouble because of my voice. And it's because of my voice. I have a divine purpose, and that is what is bringing divine wealth and divine relationships, because the very thing that was demonized was my voice. And so now I'm taking all the negatives, that I've had to endure, and that, my height, everything about me, like she said, that you have to kind of suppress, kind of somewhat wear a mask, like you said, to please, because you're afraid of their responses. I don't want to get in trouble. And, even though I don't believe in what they're saying, even though I don't agree with it, but, they will manipulate you, because you are a minor, or because of, they're an authority figure in your life. And it muted so much of me where it almost stunted my gift. And now I am unapologetic for speaking out and speaking up assertively without hesitation, without pause, especially when I know that others can benefit and attribute to it, because it's one of those things where it's either I'm going to please people or I'm going to please the one that created me with the gift and put me here to make a difference. So now my thing, he said, he who loves his life will lose it, and he who hates it will gain it. So no longer putting my parents and authority figures, money, wealth, affluence, influence above the very one, like she said, that woke me up. That's crazy. Like, are you dumb? He woke me up. He's the one. It's because of him that I'm able to sit here and I'm able to have the impact, that I'm able to get on a YouTube channel or an Unapologetically Molly platform, or when I leave here and go to other speaking shows, or have a friend or a family member where I can speak life into them and give them the very things that I was not given. And I say that even with my children, to give my children a mother that I did not have. And I do that unapologetically.
Stop, girl.
She's making me tear up. Man, you can't do that. People got to go after. You should have been last. Okay, come on, Olivia.
So I'm so unapologetically for so many things in my life, but now that you ladies are speaking, it's just brought me something deep within my soul. I'm super unapologetically for that little girl that crossed the border, that was light skinned, and everybody thought, you know what, don't sit in the front because you're going to be seen. And I'm like, I felt like I belonged. So I'm unapologetically of who I am, where I come from. I was born in Mexico. We came when I was 5 years old. And when we were crossing the border, where with they call it coyote, I wanted to sit in the front because I'm like, you know what? I look so pretty. I wanted to sit in the front. Everybody wanted to hide in the back. Like, I have 6 other siblings, and it was just my mom. She brought us over. And then I remember I was always like, I want to sit in the front of the cab. And everybody's like, no, sit in the back. You don't want to be seen. And I feel like my life was based on that. Don't be seen. Stay quiet. Don't make noise. So that little girl, I feel super unapologetic, even when Anna shared the little girl that wasn't seen, that felt like she had to hide. But now it's like, she knew. She knew that she should not hide. She should be seen so that she could help so many others, just like you ladies here. And I'm super unapologetic to be in this platform here. I'm unapologetic because of the business that I build. The 2, I don't call them failed relationships. I learned from 2 great men that helped me become who I am today. And I have 3 children. I'm super grateful and unapologetic for those relationships because I learned so much through those falls. And the 2 other businesses that I created, unapologetically for what they made me. So overall, I'm super unapologetically for my life, from that little girl to the woman that I am today, and super grateful that you invited us to be here. Thank you.
Tough acts to follow. Oh my gosh. But I would say, firstly, I'm unapologetically a follower of Jesus Christ. Not because of religion, but because of relationship, because of the principles of the faith that guide every aspect of my life, and because I feel that there has to be something else that you can lean on besides your intellect, besides your beauty, besides your connections. There has to be something external from you and from everything that you hold dear to give you an anchor so that when everything falls apart, you still have the rock. That's Christ. So that's unapologetically who I am. Additionally, I would say I am unapologetic about my vision and how I see myself and my businesses. I think oftentimes our circumstances, our life, our background, our failures, our hiccups, what people have told us, what we've told ourselves can become a narrative and can become a cast over our vision, and how we see what we can become. But I think that for whatever reason, I've always seen my future and seen myself in a particular light and seen that I can be a vision of who I can become. And I think I'm unapologetic about that in every season, phase of my life, whether it was believing in the faith so much that at one point I was sleeping on a friend's floor because my family members were so against how much I was pursuing the faith. If it was from, taking an Uber to different opportunities just because, this is what I believe in. I think that vision has to be clear. And I think I'm blessed to be able to have that vision despite knowing your own weaknesses and my own failures and my own shortcomings, that God has always helped me to see that vision. And so I'm unapologetic about that. I think oftentimes other people may not see it, but as long as you see it and you know where you're going, that's all that matters.
I love that. I love that. I want to thank you ladies for being so open and vulnerable with your stories. I think with each moment that you share, you empower every woman to kind of, stand tall. Because I know at the end of the day, we all fall short, but we have the choice to keep going. So I want to let you guys know I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in to the Unapologetically Molly premiere show. If there's anything we can encourage you to do, that is to continue to live life authentically, intentionally, but most importantly, unapologetically.